Here's my goal, to offer you a quick and concrete explanation as to how you can add more descriptive language to your writing. Now, you've heard this phrase before, show, don't tell, but it can be very abstract. I want to break it down into concrete terms so that you know what that means. Here's an example of writing that does a lot of telling. It's not very exciting. Surfing is fun and exciting. I like it a lot. It is such a unique experience. I read descriptive writing like this and I'm not very happy because there isn't much description. There's too much telling or literal language stating exactly what the writer means. There's no imagery attached. In other words, where's the picture? Also, verb choice is probably the single most important aspect of descriptive language, and when you have to be verbs, am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been, those should be red flags that you've got literal language and a chance to add more description. Think about your modifiers as well. Your adjectives and adverbs. These should be used sparingly in descriptive writing, and when used, they should be interesting, fun, exciting, and unique, or rather tired, overused, and again, don't have much imagery. Finally, consider the nouns. Good, concrete, specific nouns are needed, and in this case, we have surfing and experience as the most concrete, but the rest are rather general, vague pronouns. So, this writing is not very interesting. How do we improve it, though? I'll show you. Now this next example I find more interesting because it does a better job of showing versus telling. I popped out of the salty foam, my feet planted to the sticky board. My head felt like it would split apart, my smile was so big. I whooped. Now in this case, I'm describing surfing in a way that shows the reader the experience as opposed to tells him or her the experience in a literal way. Now I do have a to be verb, and so I do have some literal language. My smile was so big, but that's not a bad thing. It's actually a blend of literal and descriptive language that makes for good writing. Now, remember the verb choice is the most important. Consider these: popped, planted, split, and whooped. All of these are juicy, vivid verbs because they have imagery attached. There's sight imagery, sound imagery, and even touch that are associated with those verbs, and that carries the notion of description. Also, when I use modifiers, adjectives, and adverbs, I'm going to do that sparingly, but I want them to have impact. Salty and sticky are much more unexpected and therefore more effective. Finally, considering my nouns. I want to use concrete, specific nouns and again have imagery associated with those. Foam, feet, board, and smile are more concrete. And so overall, this writing is much more interesting than my first example. In the last example, I'm going to show you how to add even more description. This last description of surfing makes me happiest because it's the most vivid and unique. I popped up, my feet gripping the tacky board. A grin wider than the horizon splashed across my face. A wild power from the ocean and from within me foamed up as I let out a long and loony whoop. Any English teacher in the world would say that this is showing, not telling. But again, why is that? It has to do with my verb choice. Popped, gripping, splashed, and foamed all have imagery attached, and a variety of imagery at that. Also, the grin is splashing across my face like water, and the sense of enjoyment is foaming up from within me as a wave rises from the ocean. I'm purposefully trying to add my own figurative language through my verb choice. Again, I'm looking at modifiers. Tacky, wild, long, and loony are unexpected and have a variety of imagery attached, not just sight images, but sound and touch as well. My nouns are concrete and specific and plentiful. Feet, board, grin, horizon, power, ocean, whoop. And I'm adding even more figurative language. The grin, I want to show how big that is. I compare it to the horizon. And my sense of enjoyment, that wild power, is rising from within me as the waves rise from the ocean. All of these come together then to take something that's very telling and literal and boring and making it much more interesting for the reader. If you focus on your verbs, consider your adjectives and adverbs. Think about the nouns that you choose and try to add some of your own figurative language. You're taking writing and making it more descriptive, or you're showing and not telling. And that will make any English teacher in the world very happy, and more importantly, any reader more interested in what you have to write.